I think they are scared that the Ukrainians will use this as an opportunity to create a gigantic embarrassment. I really think this is Ukraine's path to victory. That really changes things for the Russians.
Hello, my name is Iya Meurmishuli. I'm the editor-in-chief here at Independence Avenue Media, and my guest today is retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. General Hodges was the commanding general of the U.S. Army Europe. Currently, he lives in Germany, and he's joining us from Frankfurt. And with that, General Hodges, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for the privilege.
Thank you very much. Let's start from May 9th parade in Moscow. Usually, Putin celebrates this parade as one of the biggest, if not the biggest celebration in the country. This year, it's going to be different. What do you make of it? Why are they limiting the parade and what's going on?
Well, it seems to be out of concern. They don't want to have Ukrainian drones and flamingos landing on top of the parade, and so they've reduced the profile. Significant increase in security in and around the Capitol. Restrictions on internet activity. I mean, a lot of things really tighten it down because I think they are scared that the Ukrainians will use this as an opportunity to create a gigantic embarrassment. Now, you could also speculate, well, they're going to have troops there, but not the equipment because all the equipment has been focused on the war, or maybe there's other reasons, I don't know. But it clearly, I think the average Muscovite is going to recognize that it's not the same big parade that it normally is.
Are the Ukrainians capable of actually inflicting or posing that threat and inflicting any damage on the Red Square?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they hit a big posh apartment building a couple of days ago in Moscow, and they struck one of the nicer neighborhoods. They don't normally target civilian infrastructure, but they've demonstrated the reach, and of course. I really think this is Ukraine's path to victory, that they have figured out because they've developed such effective long-range precision weapons that can strike and hit oil and gas infrastructure, factories, headquarters, those kinds of things at great distance. I mean, that really changes things for the Russians. First of all, if they can't export oil and gas, then they can't sustain the war. But psychologically, also, it makes it very difficult for the Kremlin to paint this as a successful operation and that the Ukrainians are not nearly as good as the Russians and that sort of thing. So, in short, to answer your specific question, absolutely, the Ukrainians have the ability. And also, it would not surprise me that if we discover that they've infiltrated a lot of GUR and special operators in and around Moscow that could be doing things as well. We'll see.
Ukraine's head of drone technology or drone development recently gave an interview to PBS where he said that cost of killing one Russian is $1,000. Is Ukraine capable of depleting Russia from the human force standpoint, do you think?
I would say yes, assuming that Russia does not increase its ability to protect its own soldiers and degrade Ukraine's ability to do what they're doing. But I think we've had 5 months in a row now where Ukraine has killed or wounded more Russian soldiers than the Russians are able to recruit and bring into the armed forces. So that's a negative trend that if it continues that way, this sort of attrition becomes very, very problematic for the Russians. And of course, if you don't have soldiers, then there's less and less incentive for people to join, even if there's a significant financial bonus awaiting for them. And if you don't have soldiers who know how to do these things that can be part of the training base. I mean, it's one thing to recruit troops in, but they have to go through training to be prepared if you expect they're going to be effective on the battlefield. That's manpower intensive also. So I think there's a cumulative effect of what Ukraine is doing, which has contributed to what seems to me to be a major shift in the momentum of this war. Now, momentum can shift back, but right now it looks there's no way that Russia can defeat Ukraine, and I don't see anything changing for Russia to Russia's benefit on the ground in the coming months because of what Ukraine has been able to do. On the other hand, Ukraine still does not have the ability to push Russia all the way out. But I think the combination of stopping Russian ground operations and destroying Russia with their long-range precision weapons, Russia's oil and gas infrastructure, that's quite a combination. The one thing that they haven't been able to do is stop these Russian air and missile attacks against Ukrainian cities. I mean, you know, you've been there, you know what it's like. That's still a problem.
Do you think it's an impact of the Iran war that the Ukrainians are lacking some of those air defense systems and capabilities, or do you think it's something else?
Well, the Trump administration stopped supporting Ukraine with those kinds of things months ago before the war against Iran. So I would. This was more of a policy decision than they're just running out. So Ukraine is going to have to keep working on developing their own capabilities. And then, of course, European countries, most of whom, like Germany, understand that their own security depends on Ukraine being successful. So I would anticipate European countries looking to backfill some of those requirements that the United States should be doing, but it's not.
Yeah, and do they have those capabilities? Can they actually step in?
Not in adequate quantity. This air and missile defense, I think, is a major vulnerability that we have, not just in Ukraine, but across Europe. And this is a problem because the Russians, if the Russians have ever made the terrible decision to attack, let's say Latvia or Estonia or somewhere else in Europe, it will include drone strikes and missile attacks like what they do against Ukraine every night. And I don't believe that we are prepared in the rest of Europe, both in terms of capability or actually mentality. So that this is a problem that the industry, nations have to turn to industry to provide what's needed. Now, the Ukrainians, of course, out of necessity, have been very effective at developing counter-drone technologies. Other people are working on this. So protection against drones is probably closer to reality than is adequate protection against cruise missiles.
What do you make of the decision to withdraw 5,000 troops from Germany, U.S. troops from Germany? What kind of impact do you think that will have? And overall, how do you look at that decision?
Well, of course, I don't like it. It's something that they talked about in President Trump's first administration, and ever since he came back into office for his second administration. So I disagree with the decision, but what's particularly unhelpful is that the way this has been done, it doesn't seem to be attached to a particular strategy that's going to improve American security anywhere or is going to help protect American interests any better. In fact, it does the opposite. I think this decision will hurt us much more than it hurts Germany, even though President Trump clearly intended this to be seen as a punishment for the German Chancellor Merz for his comments the other day about U.S. and Iran. The fact is, from a German standpoint, it hurts psychologically that their longtime ally that they have trusted and stood alongside for decades is turning its back on them. So there's a psychological aspect to this. And nobody should feel sorry for Germany. I mean, they have failed to do everything they should have done in terms of their own defense. There's no doubt about that. But if you're asking about impact, Germans are like, what's going on with the United States? We don't even recognize the U.S. anymore. And of course, there will be some impact on the local towns and communities around the base there in Bavaria, where this Stryker regiment lives. Now, that's not a reason for us to put troops there, but again, if you're asking about what are the impacts, that's what it is. The impact on the United States is much more significant. As we do things, take steps that break down trust with our allies, that damages our ability for intelligence sharing. And we depend on allies for half of the intelligence that we use. Everything doesn't come from an American satellite. And then, of course, as I think most people are familiar, the access that our allies give us, like Ramstein, the air base here in Germany, that's essential. You cannot replicate what Ramstein means for us for projecting power into Africa, the Middle East, across the Mediterranean, and throughout Europe. This is a part of it. And I just worry that because of an act of petty retribution by the president against the Germans, he's doing something that damages our strategic interests. This is not to say that European allies should not be doing more, but this was not done because he thought they're not doing enough. This was done because he didn't like what Merz had to say.
Do you anticipate anything from the German side as a tit-for-tat sort of reaction to this?
I don't. Every now and then in social media, you'll see somebody say, well, let's go ahead and shut down Ramstein, screw these guys. But I think most sober Germans, military leaders, political leaders understand that exactly what Merz said at the Munich Security Conference, that Europe needs the United States needs Europe. And Germany is our most important ally in Europe. And so I think Europeans are going to take a longer-term view of this, recognizing that it'll never be the same again as it was, but taking a longer-term view of the relationship with the United States. Don't burn a bridge that you're going to need later. So for me, it's frustrating because you can feel it, the lost trust. People have always criticized American policy. That's one thing, but they always looked up to the United States as an ideal, the defender of democracy, as that beacon. And now we've lost that, and it will be. I don't think we'll ever get that sort of respect back.
Let's wrap up with the Caucasus. European leaders have gathered in Yerevan. It was an annual meeting, but still very significant. So do you see anything into it? Do you think that Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Caucasus as a region is changing its position as it relates to Russia and Europe?
I think that this is a fascinating development, and I hope that European countries and the United States will be smart enough to understand and appreciate the opportunity of what the Caucasus mean for as a portal between East and West, that everything doesn't have to be controlled by Russia. And I think Russia is paying the price now for its failure to be a good ally to Armenia. I think in the last conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Armenians really got left out by the Russians. The Russians have also failed to help their other allies, Syria, Venezuela. They've done very little to help Iran. And so I think the Armenians realize that they don't want to, it's not good for their future to be handcuffed to Russia. I think that they can see the potential here, and the fact that so many European leaders went there also is a positive sign. And I hope that this will continue, and I hope it has a positive effect on Georgia, that the Georgians see that their future is much better if you're integrated into the West, for your young people, for business, than it is to be continued to be handcuffed to a corpse like Russia.
General Hodges, thank you very much for your time and for your thoughts, and let's do this again.
Okay, well, I always enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
You just watched an interview with General Ben Hodges. If you like our interviews, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media wherever you get your social media. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.